This is the ATI Podcast.
Welcome to the ATI Podcast Cookout Special.
Ooh, baby.
So we just wanted to take the opportunity, kind of the concept of today's show is going to be some special submissions from former guests. They are going to have some entertaining submissions, that is, about what the 4th of July means to them, what Independence Day is. So maybe we'll get some historical submissions, and maybe we'll get some satirical or comedic submissions. I have left everybody up to their creative free reign, and I have not previewed these in advance, so they are going to be a surprise to us as well, and everything's going to be super cut in today, so stick around. There's going to be some good moments and some heartfelt moments, but I think some more entertaining ones as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think, especially with some of the guests that we've had, I would foresee some pretty good segments coming in. So
yeah, so we've had quite the eclectic mix of people in different backgrounds, so I think this is going to be quite interesting.
Absolutely.
What we may or may not receive. So we definitely are going to enjoy bringing that to you guys. So I'll kick things off myself here. So I was kind of pontificating on what the 4th of July meant to me, and I just kind of tried to start initially with my first memories of what 4th of July was, what Independence Day was. So I actually was born in the St. Louis area, lived there until I was 6 years old. So kind of my early memories were going over to my Aunt Mary's house. She was kind of my grandmother figure. She was actually my father's aunt, so my great aunt. But she was really my prominent grandparent figure in my life, especially in my early formative years. Living in St. Louis, and all of my actual biological grandparents were down in this area, actually, so I didn't really see them as frequently as I saw her. But she would always host family gatherings and that sort of stuff, and she was a mentor to my father and support system for us, so we would go over to her house, and of course, St. Louis and the 4th of July is always a huge deal. They do the Fair St. Louis.
And, BP Fair.
Yeah, and fortunately, I've been there several times, got to see musical artists for free. We got to see Flaming Lips for 1 year.
Right.
There's usually something for everybody there. And even if you don't like the music, the fireworks show is of the best that I've seen in my entire life, if not the best. So.
Yeah. They put on a hell of a show up there.
But I remember seeing the fireworks show on the news being covered, and I thought, boy, this day is really important because people are celebrating this on a grand and mass scale.
Right.
So this is pre, 6 years or younger when I see this, of course.
Right.
So that's kind of my first memories, but just kind of over the years, what it's become, of course, there's the usual staples that you can refer to, fireworks, barbecue.
The flag.
Family, friends, the American flag, of course, that imagery.
Right.
Everybody's patriotic on the 4th of July, everybody's typically wearing some type of American flag or red, white, and blue garb or something of that ilk,
Right.
Swimming, water activities, outdoor activities, pretty synonymous with 4th of July baseball.
Right.
In particular, as far as sports are concerned, prime baseball season. Where it kind of gained a little bit more prominence with me, of course, 4th of July people typically get together with their families. So my mom's side of the family, the Newhouse family, would have firework parties as well. So we did a few of those, and that's whenever we started to explore the Roman candle fights and, the little bit more dangerous activities that take place.
I've been there.
And those were some of my first experiences of being around people that were drunk, and what a drunk person was, and how people acted when they were drunk, and that sort of thing too. So nowadays, Josh and I have had many of these personal discussions. My family today is those that I choose to be around me, and they choose to be around me as well.
Right.
I guess to make it, I know that sounds probably, we're all born in a family. We don't get to choose our family in most instances. But, life is what you make it. You get to make decisions. And for me, spending time with people like Josh and his family,
Right.
You know, and some of our close friends, people that we've had on the show routinely, like Ridge and his family. You know, spending time with those people, those are the people that I want to make those moments, those memories with their kids going forward, create a legacy for them. Perhaps, you know, our kids, they're all friends now, but maybe we can start something now to, you know, go on from generation to generation. So,
or they can still get together 30 years from now. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
We just kind of want to set that example that, you know, you can have a good time. You can choose your surroundings. But also we have to mention, you know, the historical importance of what today is, of course. So
yeah, I mean, you don't have what we have without what it is. You know what I mean? So
and I think it's kind of bittersweet considering that, you know, like the January 6th hearings and stuff are going on right now too. You know, these were people that were actually trying to threaten our democracy, our institutions of government, our way of life, quite frankly. These insurrectionists. At one time, I suppose we were insurrectionists, really, if you have to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the British Empire, right?
We were under British rule. A lot of the movement with regards to that was, you know, no taxation without representation. A lot of them went back to taxes and the lording of, you know, monarchies over foreign lands.
Well, and the big issue was the British crown was used in the American colonies as a way to foot the bill for their global war, for their expansion.
Absolutely.
And the Americans were just fed up with it.
Yeah, and British imperialism was a real thing, of course. You know, the French were doing their damage, and Spanish as well, you know, so.
The Dutch.
Absolutely. So everybody had their cogs in the machine, if you will, with regards to that. And America's been plenty guilty of it the last 200 years specifically, too. So
yeah, we're no angels.
We're no angels, and we're certainly not innocent. And we're imposing our views of democracy all over the world, fortunately or unfortunately, regardless of what your viewpoint is.
That we can't even agree on what is at home.
You know, I'm pretty big into like the Woodrow Wilson ideas of isolationism and, you know, let's worry about what's going on at home.
Right. Instead of trying to police the world.
Absolutely, because there's matters of the world that we're never going to fix. But, you know, this day, the 4th of July, Independence Day, really is about reflecting on us declaring our Declaration of Independence from Great Britain, from British rule. This is the beginning of our country. You know, you can look at many points and say, well, maybe coming over the Mayflower is the beginning of our country, or Leif Erikson landing in Nova Scotia, that's the first, you know, white Anglo-Saxon type person. Well, he's a Viking.
But when you talk about the United States of America,
we're talking United States
and a democratic republic.
Yeah. Yes,
you're talking
as an institution, we're talking a Declaration of Independence. And to think about the importance of that, and I think it is important for us for these hearings that are going on right now to take place, because it upholds these traditions of democracy,
right,
and fighting against tyranny and fighting against people that are trying to move toward oligarchic, you know, mind frames,
or
concepts.
Fascists. They're straight up fascist way.
Yeah, for
telling
sure.
people how they need to live and how they should live and how they want them to live. I mean, that's not democratic. That's about as fascist as it gets. So.
You have to consider the historical context, but then, of course, everybody should look at it from a personal viewpoint. And there's the fun stuff, like I said at the beginning, of course, the barbecue. The barbecue is a must on 4th of July.
Right.
You know, water play is a must. It's usually hot, you know, and get to enjoy that. And it's looking like we might have some favorable weather in the forecast, so we're going to have a little bit of that going on here at the Bears Den, you know.
Hell yeah. I'm excited, man.
And we are going to have some friends over. We're going to have some barbecue, some water play, like I mentioned, little adult games. Going to set up the GameCube.
Yeah.
Have some little GameCube tournaments going on.
That'll be cool.
Some games. So just a little bit of everything.
I'm way down with that.
Something for everybody to do. And
yeah.
And we're going to actually gather some submissions for this episode as well that you'll hear. So you might hear us in an intoxicated or inebriated state. So please enjoy those moments as best as you can. We're not trying to be annoying, but you know, we're just natural that way. It comes
with the territory sometimes.
So, Josh, I want to hand it off to you, kind of what the 4th means to you, maybe historically, what you viewed the 4th as.
For me, mine's very similar, you know. Born in St. Louis, grew up in a small town, Caledonia, Belgrade area, my early childhood. Yeah, a lot of my memories are very similar to yours, hanging out with cousins and friends and stuff, meeting up with family members for barbecues and swimming and so forth. So, yeah, that was a lot of early childhood memories for me with the 4th of July. It was very similar to yours. just spending time with family was a big thing during the 4th of July for us. It was a way it was just another excuse for everybody to get together. I mean, of course, as time goes on, stuff changes and that doesn't happen. Like you said, and you choose to be with your family on these days now. And it's kind of similar. When I was a kid, we used to go and watch fireworks shows in Farmington because that's where I was from. So that's something that I kind of continue on with my kids. We go and watch fireworks shows and then we do our own fireworks. But the 4th of July, yeah, for me is just, I try to take a step back and look and just realize what the idea of the United States of America is supposed to be and how many people have sacrificed so much to make it that. And that's kind of, historically, I try to instill that in my children to make them understand what it really is and, how much weight comes with what it is, you know what I mean? And not just to think of it as only, a party day or a day to drink beer and shoot off fireworks. I think it's important to make sure that our kids really understand what it means in case we do deal with situations like the January 6th insurrection. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to say I'm trying to ultimately turn my kids into these red, white, and blue patriot, or anything like that. But I think it is important to have that conversation with our kids, the historical context of it. Yeah. And, for me, historically, too, it's what gives everybody the right to who they are. You know what I mean? Nothing's perfect in the United States. We have a lot of issues with a lot of, different groups of people and classes and, but at least we still have an abundance of rights here. Whereas other places in the world, you may not have those rights. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's what it is for me, man. It's just recognizing our freedoms, and
Absolutely.
the historical aspect of it and where we come from and where we're going and what we mean to be. So I love the 4th of July, man. I think it's a great holiday. And I'm a big history buff, so of course, I love the historical context behind it. The feared British Empire against the farmers with pitchforks and torches, the underdog story. And it's just, it's a cool thing to be proud of for me.
We knew these lands just like many other, wars of the past. So whenever Britain did come over here and try to fight us on our homeland, don't get me wrong, they had their movements, their wins, if you will, in the battles, but ultimately we won the war.
Right.
And with a little help of our friends, mind you.
Yeah,
we employed some help there. And had to pay that back later, and ended up in wars too, with those people. But nonetheless, I do think it is important to again look back on the historical context. And kind of the beauty of it too is, we're sitting here joking about, getting drunk and on that day, but we're able to do that again to loop it back around to the historical context of things.
You're paying homage to what allows you to be that way.
Let's talk about if we were in a Middle East country, for example, we wouldn't have the ability to even have a day like this.
Right, maybe
in
not.
This way, and celebrate it in this way, that is.
Right.
And it's literally called Independence Day because we do have the independence to celebrate in our own way.
And it's cool because it's not just one community that celebrates Independence Day. It's the whole country. Right. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a different, certain areas will have certain things like the Azalea festivals or this or that. You know what I mean? This is a federal holiday that all Americans across every community, every city, every town in the U.S. celebrates.
Almost every municipality has some type of demonstration, or at least there's one nearby as well. So
right.
Even a small town like Bismarck in our Minnow area, if you will, they have their own fireworks show.
Parades.
Parades.
Music.
As well, for sure. Live music. I do truly believe in the institution of it. I do truly believe that it is an important holiday. I do truly believe that we should recognize the historical context. I find it as equally, if not more so important than a lot of other holidays that we put weight and merit into and behind.
Right.
A now federal holiday, quite frankly, that has been needed for so long too, and I want to make mention of this, and it's so close. We just recently had Juneteenth.
Right.
It wasn't even a federal holiday until recently. And a lot of people don't even know anything about Juneteenth or what it is or what it's recognizing in the Tulsa massacre that took place in Oklahoma on Black Wall Street specifically, in the attacks. That's nothing that we were taught in school.
I actually didn't know about that until I was probably 26 or 27, thoroughly knew about that event. They didn't discuss that.
In the last 5 years or so.
Right, they did not discuss that. I've heard of it, but I never really knew the extent of it.
And really, it never was covered in media.
Oh, no, it's still not covered fully in media.
What was kind of fascinating was to see the interpretation. So 2 different things came out recently, and both a lot of black cinema ties and involved. So Lovecraft Country.
Oh, yeah.
On HBO. They do a depiction of it there, and very aptly so, and sometimes it takes seeing a visual to really, you can imagine things, you can look at pictures in history. Sometimes things are so far removed, and we even kind of touched on this in our previous episode with Doug, where we talked about 9/11. There was people who were not even born, that don't understand. And just like us, we weren't alive during Pearl Harbor or even Vietnam, so we can't really understand as well as those who lived through it.
How big of an impact it was, right?
Juneteenth is one of those events that, and particularly, unfortunately, is more tied to an ethnicity of people who are disenfranchised. And to see it actually depicted through Lovecraft Country, and it was also done in the Watchmen TV series, both done very well, really just humanized the whole situation, created... I always feel like I have sympathy to things, but to really get into that empathy level, that's a different level.
Right. That's completely different.
It definitely created that situation for me in particular. So even if you haven't seen the shows that I referred to, you feel like maybe not would be into that, or nonetheless, if you've never seen an actual depiction of what took place that day, I feel like both of those things are worth viewing, if not one or the other.
I would agree.
So I think that makes, again, Independence Day, the 4th of July, another little bit more of a bittersweet thing, because we are the land of the free, the home of the brave, to use a cheesy line. However, it's not always been the land of the free for all.
For all, right. And think how long it took for some of these people to get those freedoms. You know what I mean? It's
unfortunate it took too long. I'm glad to say that we're finally getting there, but there's other institutions of, quite frankly, enslavement that people I'm not saying on the same impact, but there's things that people aren't aware of, and we've alluded to this in our talk with Skylar too. If you haven't seen that documentary, The 13th, Americans' Prison Systems, even in the conversation with Skylar, we alluded to this. If you're poor and you get in the criminal system, good luck getting out.
Yeah, good chance you're not going to get out. You're going to be tied up in the criminal courts for the rest of your life.
If you've got the money to pay fines and get out of it, and especially small infractions, stuff like that, it's relatively low impact, doesn't affect your life too terribly. But if you're somebody, let's say you're black and poor specifically, just to be blunt, it's a lot more difficult for you, especially depending on where you live at, to get out of those systems, those cycles. The system is designed to fail, quite frankly. We are not even the most populated country in the world. We're talking 350 million approximately, give or take. We talk about countries like China and India that are in the billions. And we literally head for head count. What makes this stat even more absurd is like China literally has ethnic prisons where they've enslaved people to do work. Right. They have work camps over there right now. People that are enslaved because of their religious beliefs or what sector of the country that they live from or came from. It's just absurd that here in America, we actually have more people in prison than they do even in China.
Yeah, per capita, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's unreal to even think that. And then, again, we could get into things like
private prisons,
prisons
for profit,
prisons, and the corrupt nature behind that, what prisons have done to certain communities, how they've changed crime in communities. What happens a lot in prisons, too, is people get released and they stay within that community. So what was once lauded as, in this area, I could speak to it definitively because we have 3 prisons within a 25-mile radius
Not
or
only
so.
that, we have the state hospital.
And we have a jail.
A lot of
jails.
A lot of the people that come out of the state hospital don't have families or anybody. What do? They just let them walk out the front door. You know what I mean? Like, where do you think they're going to go? They're going to be in that community.
Absolutely. So it has changed the complexion of communities as well. I'm not saying that there isn't a time and place for some sort of prison, but there needs to be more focus on reintegration into society. There needs to be more focus on educating these prisoners. There needs to be more of a focus on the rehabilitation aspect of
or just
the
reintegration. In
general.
Right, just supporting an individual's needs to be a successful member of society. And that's something that we really fail on, you know what I mean? We expect people to come in and pay their time and, their fines, but these people may not be suited for life in society.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I really think, like, as someone that's worked inside the institution, I think that's something that we should really work on.
There's a lot of hand-in-hand things that go together. So a lot of people in the prison system, there's a lack of education.
Yep.
There's a lack of wealth. It's not to say that wealthy people don't commit crimes. They do. There's a lot of white-collar crime and what have you that takes place.
Right.
Drunk driving accidents, things of that ilk, tax evasions, more financial type stuff in the sense of
it does happen.
Fraudulent financial activities.
Right.
Whenever we're talking, kind of your run-of-the-mill, and really another big thing we could talk about, which our opinions on this, but there's people serving life sentences for weed possession,
right?
Which is just unreal. There was a guy just denied here recently who's on a life sentence currently just for weed infractions.
I was going to say, I met a guy at ERDCC in Bonne Terre when I was in the institution that was serving, I think he was in his 40s and he still had like 15 years left or something crazy, but he was a third strike felon.
Yeah.
This is his third felony, and it was like a major possession of marijuana, and it cost him a lot of years of his life.
It's insane,
But then, I will say, he did have infractions inside the prison that compounded his... Yeah, but anyway, that's another story. But I'm just saying,
but if you're in
ridiculous.
Jail for strictly weed-related infractions, I mean, like 30-plus states, it's either medical or recreational, and that's only going to increase. At this point, you're talking 2/3 of the country that weed is legal in some variety, form, or fashion.
Right. And let's be honest, who's not smoking weed? Like, I know a lot of people that don't smoke weed, but there is a shit ton more people now smoking weed than there was 10 years ago.
It's more socially, it's all has to do with social acceptance.
Right.
And there's a lot of people trading off their vices. I know people that were hard alcoholics that,
right.
I mean, we talked to PQ on a previous episode. He lives out in California. Everything he does is legal there. But, he was an alcoholic and weed helped him stop being an alcoholic, which was way more detrimental to his health.
Right.
And, the consumption of cannabis, medical marijuana, is way more beneficial to some of the things that he was dealing with.
Right.
So, and I could speak, myself included, being a medical patient.
Me too.
Drink very little now. It's not because I just don't enjoy alcohol, but, previously I was drinking to subside issues personally.
Right.
With myself. In the access and the binge drinking and that sort of stuff.
Right.
I don't have to do that anymore.
Now you smoke you a hooter and take you a nap and you'll be fine. But
absolutely.
Eat your cheeseburger. Just
I've
move
had
on with life.
Too many of those, as Josh can see firsthand right now. I lost my rockin' dad bod, and I've got a gelatinous blood.
You're looking better than me, but I'll tell you that.
We just wanted to take an opportunity to kind of warm up the ceremony, this special that we have for you guys today.
And guys, take your time, enjoy your time with your friends and your family. Enjoy yourself. Life's stressful. We got a lot of shit going on with inflation, and the world's in a crazy spot with everything, climate change, the shit in Europe. Just take some time out and step back and enjoy yourself.
And we realize this episode's going to hit you post 4th of July, and that's fine. That's kind of the intent and was our idea, but, we're at that time of the year,
speaking
too.
Of future tense.
Well, we have to consider that, this is kind of that vacation time of the year, so people get in kind of those same modes and get reflective. And so let this be a listening piece, a companion piece for those moments as well.
Right.
A lot of our friends are in teaching jobs, or their jobs are surrounding in teaching, or whether there's an on-season or off-seasonality to their work. This is more about a time of reflection and enjoying the liberties that we do have in this country.
Right.
And that is why that is such a prominent discussion piece for us on this show. Tapped into the politics, the ongoings, the machinations politically, and keep our listeners informed. Know your rights, know your abilities, but also enjoy them. Enjoy life.
Right.
So we appreciate you guys listening to us. We're going to cut to our former guests in their clips that they have for you, so please enjoy.
Guys. I hope you love it.
And happy belated 4th to you all, and happy ongoing vacations, and happy reflection time.
Absolutely. You said it the best.
Hey, how's it going, guys? This is Bert from Missouri and New Orleans and Albuquerque and fucking everywhere. The guys asked me to do a recording about 4th of July and what it means to me. Personally, I celebrate my shit in June, so there's that. But I do have a few 4th of July related stories for you. And so if you bear with me, I'll get into some shenanigans. Right before I moved out of Missouri, I was at this giant party / weekend-long festival full of hippies and body hair and LSD and all that shit. And there's this kid decked out red, white, and blue shorts, red, white, and blue tank top, red, white, and blue bandana. All of it. And I was just looking at him, I was like, oh man, it's gonna be one of those fucking guys. So I kind of just didn't really bother to try to be around him if I didn't have to. But anyway, I come back a little bit later, out by the bonfire, and this kid is fucking frying out of his head on acid. And I'm just kind of chilling by the fire, and I had one of my friends with me. I'm not gonna name her because I don't want her also to come out looking like the asshole in the story as much as I do. Anyway, we were all sitting by the fire, and this kid like has a sparkler, like a lit sparkler, and he like looks at it, and he looks up at me, and he kind of looks at it, and he looks up at me, and he's like, I bet I could eat this. I was like, what? He's like, you think I could eat this? And I was like, I mean, you could try, I'm sure. And I shit you not, this motherfucker, like, dead ass, like, just sticks this whole sparkler in his mouth and starts chewing. And it's like phosphorus, so it's all burning as he's still doing it. He's still doing it. And he goes for about like, 4 or 5 seconds probably before this girl runs up and like yanks it out of his mouth. And she's like, what are you doing? And then she like turns to me and she's like, why would you let him do that? And I was like, he fucking offered, I don't know. And that was pretty great. That kid actually ended up not being really a douche, because I saw it like that, like later on that night, like when I had taken some acid myself, we ended up actually like dancing to fucking D Antwoord for like 3 hours. And so bonding over shitty music and, fucking LSD will make you friends with anybody, I guess. But the dude ended up being alright. He had some pretty rough looking like sores around his mouth. And so that's one 4th of July story.
Hey guys, this is Marcus Newstead. I play guitar in Fister, Daybringer, Path of Might, sometimes Bastard, and sometimes Storm Ruler. I was on the 15th episode of the ATI Podcast with Barrett, and basically what 4th of July means to me, I treat it like every other holiday, secular or religious. I don't really celebrate what the holiday's for. I take my day off work. I spend it with my family, my friends. I do what I want to do. That's how it goes for everything. Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, all that stuff. I've never been forced to adhere to what these holidays are supposed to be celebrated with. And I frankly will never probably be a huge pro, give me those American flag shorts and sunglasses, set off all these fireworks. I'll take any excuse to drink some beer and have a good time, but I'll never celebrate shit that I don't really believe in. So mainly, it's just a reason for me to be who I am and celebrate my connections and my sort of experiences with everybody that I hold dear. And really, honestly, that's all it means to me. I think more people should adopt that ideology, because then they wouldn't be so stapled down to thinking they have to be so patriotic or have to be so religious or whatever. And take these things at face value. We can really all kind of get the most out of them without having to play into what, the people who created these holidays are really trying to get us to do, which is conform. So yeah, that's pretty much my stance on it. Give me that day off, I'll take it. All right, guys, have a good 4th of July.
Hi, this is Jared PQ, aka The Razzer, aka Dad Bod Peterson, aka Mountain Man Thought Baby. To me, the 4th of July is all about smoking meth with my cousin, blasting fireworks, and walking around Walmart with my shirt off.
Hi, ATI folks. This is Doug Wicker from Search Party Films, episode 20. Just dropping in to really say that Independence Day, to me, is a reminder of the core of what America meant when we founded it. And that no matter what struggles we're going through, that deep in the heart of it, we're in a good country compared to some places that, maybe don't have as many freedoms as we have. So it's a good reminder to look past some of the struggles and everything that we're going through and just kind of settle on where we can be when we're at our best.
Hey, this is Skylar Johnson. I was on episode 18 talking about police reform and criminal justice reform. I think for 4th of July, besides fireworks and barbecues and hanging out with friends, that 4th of July is literally like the start of the American dream, which is seeing something you don't have or told you can't have, and then working and fighting and standing up for yourself until you get this almost unobtainable dream that you then set up for generations to come.
That was a meaty trailer before. Yes, it was Mrs. Doubtfire 2, your host from KTJJJJKLMNOP. I am Pirates Investigator I, PII for short, and welcome back to the show. It appears that we have a guest, one called the Don.
Hey, you say Mrs. Doubtfire. I don't know about that, but, I do know about Mrs. Shorewater, because, you know, I get them wet.
Oh,
But, yeah, I'll get you.
yeah, you gotta calm down
You
with
gotta,
those tones.
you gotta get your mind out of
Yeah.
the gutter. I'm talking about, I make them swim with the fishies, if you know
Oh,
what
it sounds like you're talking about a bit of WAP. Wet-ass pussy.
I don't know what even you're talking about, but, I'm saying if you mess with me, you're gonna swim with the fishies. But anyway, let me clarify really
Oh,
fast.
Jesus Christ, he's going on a tyrant.
My name is the Don, but I don't want that to be confused with this orange tangerine ketchup hand little fuck named Donald Trump. I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
I am
yeah.
the Don.
Oh, yeah, we don't get political around here.
Oh, well, then you're talking to the wrong guy.
Oh, yes. Swimming with the fishies.
Anyway, what are we here for? I don't understand.
Oh, okay, so back to the show. Apparently I am talking to you here on this July 4th, which happens to be one of the greatest days in America henceforth.
The greatest days in America henceforth? What's so great about this place, huh?
Oh,
Except
it's oh, go
I'm
ahead.
talking here. You trying to disrespect the Don?
Oh, no, Don, I'm not fucking saying anything about you.
Fucking don't look me in the eyes when I'm
Or
talking.
would I like to?
Anyway, the only thing great about this place is all the money I'm getting from all the people I'm killing.
Oh, rough. It is a criminal pirates radio.
Anyway, from what I hear, oh no, I'm losing my accent.
Oh, wow. It appears as though you are not a real person.
Don't you talk to me.
Oh,
Anyway, I hear a lot of boom bams, shish gum bams, all of the Hallapalooza outside, but I set those up to cover my gunshots, cause pow, pow, pow. My hooligans. They're in the streets.
It's rightfully so. I mean, your pow-pow-pows appear to be death-oriented, and the pow-pow-pows outside apparently are happy-oriented.
Little do you know, the 4th of July started when my ancestors, long ago,
Oh,
came to this country.
yeah.
And they said, let's
They
do the
pillaged.
pow-pow-pows in the sky.
Oh.
And while those pow-pow-pows are going off, we're gonna pow-pow-pow those heads and steal the money. So, that's the origin of
I don't
the
really
July.
understand your
It's a
anger.
cover-up.
You're very upset.
All you care about is booty.
Yeah, I care about booty.
I keep losing my accent.
I keep on thinking about every single time I think about a happy moment in my life. I think about how can I get inside or around that booty.
Booty. Oh, this is a different accent. No, here it is.
Yes,
Anyway,
it smells good.
thank you. My throat is hurting.
Oh my God, it must be the fact that you are a bit of a non-talker, maybe.
This is true.
Yeah, you have cotton balls in your throat.
I do a lot of nodding. I do a lot of
Oh, yeah. All right, so up next is Lady Gaga.
Anyway,
Bro,
lock your doors, because my men are probably coming to steal your goods.
she has a meat skirt. She has a skirt that is made of meat, mostly of beef. Lady Gaga.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but, happy 4th of July, I guess.
Yes. Help me, oh, help me, oh, my goodness, it is a happy 4th of July. We're waiting for, Milas to get back to get booty to plunder. Love you all.
Happy 4th of July from Liz and Brandon.
Happy January 6th.
Another 4th of July story I had, real quick, I just wanted to get it out, because I only had 2 4th of July things worth talking about. And the other one was, it's a coming-of-age story, I guess you could say. I was 13, and I lived in Bonne Terre at the time, this little fucking nothing town in Missouri. I can only imagine how bad it is now. But I was about 13, and there was, like, only, like, a few things to do, like, on, like, you know, a Wednesday night in the summertime. You could go to the bowling alley. You could hang out at fucking Texaco and talk to that, like, weird cashier dude there because he'd give you free nachos. Or you would go and just fucking bum around Classic Video and just annoy the clerks. But last-ditch effort, if you couldn't do one of those other things, you went to this church on a Wednesday night called Christian Fellowship Church. It was super sketch. But you would go, and you would, like, basically go there to, like sneak cigarettes and, like, hopefully get some heavy petting with some girls you like. But, I was there one night. Like, you go in and you do this 30-minute little church service thing. And then after that, they pretty much just, like, set you free. They had this, like, little, like, this, like whole, like, building. It was like a giant arcade and pool tables and concessions, and, like, everything was free. It was like where the fucking foot soldiers would have recruited you, like, if, you know, the Ninja Turtles. But anyway, I went, and there's this girl there I noticed, and, like, I was playing the X-Men side scroller. I was Cyclops, of course. She came in as Storm. I was like, all right, cool. And I noticed that she wasn't bad looking, but I noticed that she, like, kept her aviators on, like, all night. And it was dark. It was, like, nighttime. I didn't think anything of it. I thought she was just doing, like, the Sarah Connor, like, rebel, like, hot chick thing. So I was like, all right, cool. I was into it. You know, long story short, you know, we're on the church bus going home. And, like, we're both kind of, like, towards the end of the route. And we're both on the same route. And so, like, we end up hooking up. You know, I get my first fucking blowjob, like, ever. It was awesome. She kept her aviators on the whole time. So it's like, wow, she's really fucking dedicated to the craft. So, deed's done. We're all done. I go and I get off the bus. And the next thing I know, my buddy is asking me about it the next day. And he shows me pictures. Like, is that her? I was like, yeah. Dude, like, one eye was, like, straight up, like, Fetty Wap. Like, it was, like, a completely, like, white eye, which is why she kept the aviators on. But I don't think that really would have changed much, to be honest, back then. But and her, like, I was like, her name was, like, if you're listening, her name was, like, Cynthia or Cindy or Ashley or Brittany or something. Yeah, so that was, like, the best 4th of July I recall. Don't shoot bottle rockets, kids, because next thing you know, fast forward a few years, you're getting head from a Cyclops.
Hey, this is Josh from ATI Podcast. For show updates and news about the podcast, follow us on social media. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ATI Podcast 22, on Twitter at podcast_ATI, on Instagram at the ATI Podcast, on TikTok at ATI Podcast. DMs are always welcome. Have a question for the show? You can always email us at atipodcastquestions@gmail.com. Stay safe out there.
This is Barrett from the ATI Podcast. Each week, Josh and I discuss current events, pop culture, music, TV, movies, politics, sports. Nothing is out of bounds. You can also tune in to learn about rising artists, small businesses. Whether it's music, graphic design, filmmaking, or even a brick-and-mortar mom-and-pop shop, we will be spotlighting folks and their endeavors. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Anchor, or anywhere you enjoy your podcasts. Just search ATI Podcast. We would like to thank you for your continued support, and as always, please stay safe out there.